I'm Zach Vincent, and this is my AS evaluation for my media portfolio. After my primary and secondary research, I worked out that I should create a new pop magazine, as this genre was the most popular and the largest following. My research also revealed that I should make a high quality magazine for older mainstream pop fans, as this is where the biggest gap in the market is. As for specific audience demographics, my primary and secondary research also guided this, as I found that my audience would have an even gender split. These would be aged between 15 and 30 years, and there would be any sexuality and would be in the social grades of B to E. This rather specific and unconventional age range and gender of my target audience diverts from typical pop magazine audience demographics, as this showed me that my magazine would need to break many typical common conventions of pop magazines if I wanted to attract my target audience successfully. I also thought about the lifestyle categories of my audience would fit into. My primary and secondary research revealed that my majority of my audience would fit into the adventurous categories of aspirers and explorers. This fits with common conventions of pop magazines, as most people associate pop magazines with very vibrant, modern, unique mainstream artists who fit the stereotypes of aspirers and explorers, as opposed to the more negative, depressed, or criminal youth stereotypes you may see with indie rock or hip-hop magazines. These findings influenced my media languages choices because I realised that I would need to represent my audience as what the theorist Osby in 1998 called youth as fun, as opposed to the negative stereotypes Stanley Hall discussed in 1904. However, because my primary target audience are older pop fans, I did want to work in some aspects of Stanley Hall's 1904 stereotype ideas to show my magazine would not be too young for my target audience. Hall argued that the majority of teenagers needed excitement which can come to them by drinks, drugs, sex, or even criminal activity. This showed me that for my magazine to appeal to all possible pop fans, I needed to link their enthusiasm for rebellion into my magazine by making it look more edgy, rebellious, anti-establishment and exciting than your average pop magazine pitched at younger teenagers. My research showed me that even if the readers were not rebellious themselves, they may still like to read about stars who were rebellious, as this would be entertaining for them. Something else I learned about my target audience is that explorers have a high energetic drive and interest in new things. This drive links very much to the modern pop artists in the way that artists have energy. I connoted my magazine would reflect this energy and the demographic of my target audience through including relevant, new and trending artists on my cover, contents and double page spread. For example, the use of artists like Ellie Goulding and Justin Bieber make for interest for the younger individuals, whereas an older artist like Elton John would appeal to an older audience. Before making any media language decisions, I conducted primary and secondary research to make sure I was making the right choices for my target audience and genre. The key thing I found out that was I should break the common conventions of existing pop genre magazines like Top of the Pops and We Love Pop, as the conventions were too immature to represent my audience. Instead, I need to creatively adapt the conventions I saw for an older audience and follow some of the conventions I observed in magazines like Billboard that had a much older, more edgy style. One of the first things I designed was the masthead. I called my magazine Unplugged, as this was the first name chosen by my target audience. Using one word linking to the music industry and the target audience needs was a convention of the indie magazines I looked at and of the pop magazines. The Lexis Unplugged represents my audience because it connotes the magazine will be about the latest new original music, as Unplugged is a music term. I used a modern font style similar to Billboard to connote my magazine would represent modern male and female readers. I broke a major layout convention with my masthead, as I made the creative choice to run it vertically down the left side of the cover instead of across the top. I did this to make the magazine stand out and look rebellious to represent and attract my target audience. For my page layouts, I broke conventions of layouts seen on magazines like Top of the Pops and We Love Pop, but I followed on for the ordered minimalist and the grown-up layouts of magazines like Billboard. For my cover, I used one main image, a medium close-up, of one of my star vehicles in an interesting pose, covering most of the page, then positioned my text in a relevantly small font around the image. I chose this layout style to connote my magazine was cool, creative and the right choice for an older, more affluent, stylish readers who were too grown up for a classic pop magazine layout. For my double page spread, I used a medium shot of a female star vehicle in an interesting pose, then positioned quotes to the right of her and the main article to the left with the title in the larger font above the main body of the article. I use some larger fonts and text boxes in place to follow music feature article conventions I had seen in Billboard. My font size broke conventions of pop magazines aimed at the younger readers, as it is small. This, along with the interesting creative layout, represents older pop fans in my target audience, as it shows them this is not a magazine for younger teenagers, but one for them. My content page looks a bit busier, as I have had to include more text columns and boxes to make all of the content stand out. However, I have not used too many bright colours, images and text boxes to make sure the layout will look stylish and sophisticated to match the house style and the needs of my target audience. Even though all of my layouts are grown up more than the majority of pop magazines layouts, they still fit the stereotypes of Osby and Hall because they make the product look fun and rebellious, which will represent the needs of lifestyle of my target audience. As for colour palette, I have used muted colours and pastel colours across my cover, contents and double page. This allows flow and create a brand style that is right and for my slightly older target audience of 18 to 30 year olds. On my cover and contents page, I've used mostly masculine colours, black, white, grey and yellow, as I feel it is more important to attract males initially to the product, as this is where a group that needs to be reassured this is a pop music magazine that will represent their needs. Female readers are more likely to not mind buying something that looks less feminine, while getting males to buy something that is a pink cover would be the next to impossible. These colours will however work with both genders and my youth audience as they connote retro style, cool, rebellion and a happy vibe, as a black and white are associated with retro style and rebellion, while yellow symbolises happiness. For the double page spread, I have gone with more feminine colour palette to show that my content represents female readers as well as males. I have kept it simple by using 2 shades of pink, black and white. This represents older readers who do not want too many bright clashing colours like you would see in pop magazines for younger teenagers. I have also made sure I have shown my magazine will represent both genders through my imagery, as I have used a male style vehicle on the cover, male and female style vehicles on the content, and a female style on the double page spread. This follows the conventions of magazines like Billboard that use a range of male and female styles to represent readers to both genders. I have also made my image represent different ethnic groups and the breaks of conventions of most pop music magazines that tend to use white stars that arguably make the publication appear racist due to the absence of diversity. Regarding my shot type choices, I have not really broken any conventions, as I have mostly used medium shots and medium close-ups. I have tried to use interesting and creative poses, mode of address, lighting and costumes to make my product stand out and to represent the target audience. For example, on my cover shot, I have got my male star to hold his jacket up and smile at the camera to connote a laid-back, trendy attitude. And I have used the studio lights to part of his face in shadow to connote his looks, which fits Osby's trouble and fun stereotype. His costume is very casual, which breaks pop conventions, but fits the style of the target audience, as it is fashion they would wear. By contrast, I have got my female model on my double page spread to wear a more glamorous costume that represents women who like to dress up more and to represent men who would find her attractive, which fits with Laura Mulvey's 1975 theory. However, she is in dark colours, which breaks pop's conventions but meets the needs of my audience who want some more rebellion. None of my images fit the negative stereotypes associated with sexuality that Andy Medhurst wrote about in 1998, as my models do not look like screaming queens or butch dykes. But this does not mean different sexualities are not represented by my images, because as Medhurst also argued, sexuality is invisible to the naked eye. However, as I did not intentionally seek out gay or lesbian artists, it could be argued that I have not been inclusive enough. For my typography, I have chosen 3 main fonts that are modern, rebellious and fun, but not too immature for my audience, to show the magazine will cover a range of pop music stories to suit everyone. I have also kept a lot of my teasers and text in small font sizes. This breaks the conventions of childish pop magazines, as they usually use more than 3 font styles and display the teasers and text in massive font sizes. The Lexis is right and for representing my audience, as it is informal, not too simple, and links to the semantic field of pop music. I've also made sure to mention male and female artists on my cover and contents to represent both genders. I think my Lexis represents youth, as it fits Stanley's Hall 1904 theory, where he argued, youth must have excitement, and if it's not in the hand of the form of moral intellectual enthusiasms, it is more prone to be sought in sex or drink, as my story is linked to music concerts that are associated with excitement, drink, drugs and sex. Therefore, it shows that my target audience can gain excitement from my magazine content.